Now, we've certainly been talking quite a bit about certificates, but we've yet to really focus on those. And before we do that, let's just wrap up some various CA, that's Certificate Authority Management tasks that I'd like you to be aware of. I did appropriate a hands-on lab for you to follow along with me, so if it's a good time, launch that lab now. This is going to have DC NUG 1, no surprise, that's our root CA, and we're also going to have that subordinate CA in the topology. Just as soon as you're able, I'd like you to go ahead and get logged in to DC NUG 1. The first thing that I wanted to share with you is that root CA certificate. You probably recall that when we were setting up the subordinate CA, that root CA certificate was a key ingredient that we needed to install in our trusted certificate authorities area. And there's actually a way that you could do this thanks to group policy. Watch this. If you launch the server manager, and then whenever we are manipulating group policy, we know we're going to go to the group policy management node. So let's do that together. Let's go to the tools menu, and under tools, we'll select group policy management. Sure enough, this might be something you would actually do on a domain-wide basis. So let's enlarge the group policy management tool. Let's expand the nuggetlab.com forest. Let's expand domains. Let's expand our domain of nuggetlab.com. And then let's select the default domain policy. If we right click this policy and choose edit, there is a way we could assign that root CA certificate into the trusted store via group policy. And obviously I wanted to show you that. It would be done under computer configuration, and then you would go to policies. Underneath policies, you'd go to Windows settings. Underneath Windows settings, you would go to security settings. And underneath security settings, notice we have a node called public key policies. Again, you may be wondering, how the heck do I have this path memorized? And it is through just one simple thing, folks, and that's practice. I kind of call it muscle memory. You just are trained how to get to these locations in group policy if you go to them and practice going to them again and again. There is the trusted root certification authorities, and we could set this up inside a group policy. You'd right-click the blank pane off to the right, and you'd choose import. This would launch the certificate import wizard with it pre-selected to go to your local machine. You'd choose next. You'd go browse. We put the certificate in question in the root of a share directory. There it is. You would select it, say open, say next, say that you want to place it in the trusted root certification authorities area, of course. Choose next, choose finish, and then just like it happened in the actual certificate authority itself, you would wait a moment for this to take effect. So this is not going to be immediate. It's going to take 30 seconds or so. If you have any doubts, you can right click and refresh, but before I could even do that, it said the import was successful, and I don't have to refresh because it shows our certificate in the appropriate trusted root certification authorities area of public key policies inside of group policy. And again, we were showing this on a domain-wide basis. So that's the first thing that I wanted you to be aware of. Now, do you remember that one of the things we really had to worry about when we were setting up our root CA and our subordinate CA was that certification or certificate revocation list. And that revocation list can be really labor intensive for these machines. So one of the things I need you to be aware of that you can configure, and you would not configure this on the root CA like we're about to. I'm just demonstrating this on this machine because we happen to be on it right now. But what you could do is you could set up an online responder role service. So you'd go to a member server inside your environment that you want to help out when it comes to the certificate revocation list dissemination, and you would go manage, add roles and features, and inside the roles and features, you would do a role-based installation for the local machine. You would expand the Active Directory certificate services, and you would choose the online responder. There it is. Notice this is going to install Internet Information Server because it's going to be web-based, that it does its job of helping you with that CRL. So we would say next, and then we would say next again, and we would accept the installation of those IIS components, and you would choose install. Just like our other installations, this is not going to require a reboot. What you would then do is you would configure this online responder using the tool that gets installed for such a job. So there we have it, that installation just completed. And like the other installations of certificate services, we don't have to reboot, but there is post configuration needed. And one of those things would be to go into Active Directory certificate services and generate an online responder certificate that you're going to bring in. Let me show you under the tools menu that you are now going to have online responder management. Okay, so be aware of that. And you can go in and you can do a revocation configuration by right clicking that node and adding that new configuration. We don't have to go deep into this by any stretch. I just wanted to show you that we can add these online responders and impress upon you their job. Their job is to help us with those revocation lists that need to be distributed. Something else that I need you to be aware of that you can do is separate duties when it comes to all this CA management. For instance, you can go to Active Directory Users and Computers, and you can go into your Users node, and you can create a new group. This is a really good idea. Go in and you create a group, a domain local group of security type, for instance, that is cert issuers, for example. These are the individuals, the administrators, that are going to help you when it comes to issuing certs inside of your organization. So now what you would do is you would come over to the actual certification authority. So we'll go to Tools and we'll bring up the Certification Authority tool. And now that you have that group in place, what you could do is you could right-click your server, go to Properties, and you could assign that security group the appropriate permissions. So once this Properties dialog comes up, we know it takes a moment to come up, we'll go to its Security tab. There we go. There's the Security tab. And we could go in here and we could say, all right, look, we want to add, and I'll do a search on cert, and it says cert issuers. Notice they created groups for us. One is certificate services decom access. We wouldn't be using that. And then cert publishers, but we created cert issuers. We add that to the permissions list here, and we could go in and say, okay, these cert issuers just have the manage, issue and manage certificates permission. So we can get granular with these permissions. Notice that Microsoft did not by default do that for us, so that's something you may want to consider. The exam objective, by the way, is administrative role separation in this area, and that's what they're referring to. The last thing that I wanted to show you, as you might guess, is they give you the easy ability to right-click your certificate server, go to All Tasks, and back it up. When you back up your CA, you have the ability to back up its private key and CA certificate, as well as the database, and you would choose a backup location. We'll just go into that share directory that we know exists off the root. Notice when you, wait a minute, actually, we want to go to C:\share. So I got that syntax incorrect. Let's correct that because we know that exists on our system. There we go. And you're asked to place a password on this backup. Good idea. So we'll drop in the password off the clipboard, say next, say finish, and you perform a backup. Notice that the backup of the CA and the CA database that we just did can occur while the CA is running. If we go to do a restore, right-click, go to All Tasks, and choose Restore CA, this is going to require that certificate services be stopped. So let me cancel this and let's refresh, and there it is. We see it is stopped. Now with it stopped, we can restore the CA. So we go in, we say we want to restore the private key and CA certificate as well as the database. We choose our C:\share location, choose next. We have to provide the password we locked it down with, choose next, choose finish, and it will go through and do a restore of the certification authority. At the end of this process, I believe it will prompt us to bring it back online. Let's see. Yes, it does. Great. So it says, do you want to start the Active Directory certificate services. We say yes, and now it'll bring that back online with that restored copy that we just put in place. So in this nugget, we took a look at some various CA management type tasks. We discussed how we can publish the root CA easily in Active Directory thanks to Group Policy's ability to do this. We took a look at the online responder, how we can separate administrative roles when it comes to certificates, and finally, we took a look at how easy it is to back up and recover the certificate authority. I hope you found this nugget informative, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.